while things that we're talking about can be used with parents and children throughout the world, we have a very special third panelist, Karen Gordon. And Karen is the founder and executive director of an organization called Whole Child International. And this organization cares for orphaned, abandoned, neglected, and abused children. Karen leads an international team in creating pioneering programs that will build better guardianship and advocate for changing policies to help children in orphanage and other situations. Her vision is to build a cost-effective model that can allow this organization, Whole Child International, to reach as many institutionalized children as possible around the world. So, Karen, if you could join the conversation and begin.
Yes. Your Holiness, thank you for being here with us. We're all delighted. Thank you. I wanted to share a little story with you about how it is that I came to be here today. My journey started with my own birth of my 2 daughters, and it was really my own experience of motherhood that started my awakening to the work that I was supposed to be doing. When I experienced my relationship with my daughters and had firsthand experience of just how important that bond and that compassion, the learning of relationship that we had together, I became very concerned for children around the world who don't have this experience, who are living in orphanages around the world. And because of this concern, I wanted to learn more about what their situation was. And so I started to spend a lot of time traveling around the world to visit institutions and learn. And what I saw in the 70-some-odd orphanages in 13 different countries on 4 different continents, I really wanted to understand the global issue, was that for the most part, orphanages are run by lovely people with very good intentions, who are trying very hard to meet the needs of the children. But their knowledge of what the children really need tends to be limited to the physical needs. So they understand very well that the children need to eat, that the children need a warm place to sleep, but they don't really fully understand just how much the children need to experience this real intimate connection and this compassion. And there are some very simple things that can be changed to help promote this and educate the people who are running the orphanages as to the importance of making this a priority, to make this happen, really have them fully understand the implications when it's not happening. And what we see, of course, in the immediate is children who tend to be very aggressive with each other because they don't have this connection and this experience of compassion. And so it was from that place of concern for these children and feeling very excited about the possibilities, easy, cost-effective changes that could be made to better their lives, that Whole Child was created with the express purpose of making sure that children who are without parents living in institutions in developing countries can have the opportunity of experiencing this bond and this compassion at an early age. I know that you're very interested in the scientific measurement of emotional suffering, and I thought I'd share with you a little bit about our partners at the University of Pittsburgh have done some very extensive research, and they went into an orphanages where the children were being emotionally deprived, no connection, no relationship. And when they improved the quality of the care and provided the children with relationship and connection and compassion through training of the administrators, training the staff, and restructuring the orphanage to make connection and relationship a priority, the changes in the children were amazing. And it's interesting when we can measure scientifically what this emotional suffering caused physically. These children, when they were provided with relationship and connection and compassion, physically grew. Their chest circumference, their height, their weight. They were still in the orphanage. They were still eating the same food, but this relationship and this emotional suffering has an impact on the whole being.
Right.
Cognitive development, emotional development, which isn't as surprising, but it's exciting to us that with very inexpensive changes that we can so dramatically help these children. And I think for parents and caregivers here in the United States, the real lesson, I think, is that for us as well, emotional connection can have a profound impact on children, and that we need to, as parents and caregivers here as well, keep that in mind as we make decisions. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Great. So if we can continue the conversation about infancy and early childhood a little bit. John, you on the videotape talked about bringing baby home, which helps parents before the birth of their baby to work on their own relationship in a way that will affect the quality of their life with their children. What's your ultimate dream about this program?
Well, I was talking to my wife, Julie, about that this morning, and she and I developed this program together. And she said something I thought was very wise, and what she said was that the things that we teach couples about babies and about their relationship, the ways we help them deal with conflict constructively, the way we help them involve fathers with the baby, the way we help them have intimacy, are very simple. It's a very simple skill set. It's not very hard to learn. I mean, they can learn it in just 2 days. Our ultimate goal is to have everyone know this and not even remember where it came from, so that it's just a part of our language to know how to relate to each other and how to stay in what's this mode. So we're taking in information, even when somebody is being unreasonable. And that's our ultimate dream. Your Holiness, can I ask you a question? One thing that is really an amazing thing about your life is that you were able to be compassionate when most people would become violent. And you are able to reach out to people who have hurt you and have hurt your people. And one thing that we struggle with, my wife and I, in working with couples, is how to help people do that with each other. And this morning, you talked about a certain kind of compassion. And you said this compassion really opens people up. And I'd like to understand how you do that.
As I mentioned this morning, limited, biased, or natural sort of compassion. That is more or less common with other species of mammals who also survive, depend on others' care. That's more or less by nature. Now, that as a seed of potential, now further increase and become infinite, unbiased compassion. Now that you need training, reasoning. So with help of human intelligence, we have the capacity to increase more wider sort of compassion. Extended. Other animals who have no that kind of intelligence, I think difficult. Maybe I think dogs or other animals who live, other animals, even I think those dogs who take care about their sheep, right? Herds of sheep, eventually I think some kind of friendly feeling that it can develop, isn't it? Although it's no intelligence, not like human intelligence, but circumstances or the environment, I think some effect. So I think a certain environment can extend within their sort of sense of concern or sense of friendship. But then we, because of this intelligence, reasoning, now perhaps in ancient time, world or community, more or less complete independence, not their survival or their prosperity not depend on other. And also because of less physical connection, some cases I think violence also in a way less. Now today, different. Because of different interest, even two continents, sometimes they follow violence, isn't it? So that kind of situation. And our very sort of, I think, the livelihood, we need a lot of facilities. These facilities is not produced by yourself, but come from different, even is a different continent. So therefore, the reality, our survival, our happy life, related with the rest of the world, isn't it? So you see, then if you keep negative attitude towards other, it's wrong view. Your prosperity, your well-being, directly or indirectly connected with the rest of the world. So as a human being, in our language, there is a word of morality, moral principle, ethics. So from that viewpoint also, and if you forget the rest of the world, it's unethical. Unethical. And practical level also, take care more others, you get benefit. Now these are the modern scientists clearly sort of mentioned, you also mentioned, the same orphan, same food, same shelter, same opportunity, but those one who have more sort of compassionate sort of the atmosphere there, their life become happier, physical also healthier. So from the selfish viewpoint, practice more compassion, you get more benefit.
Very good. Thank you, Your Holiness.
I actually have a question. I was wondering if I could go back to something that you were talking about this morning. When you were talking about this connection between mother and child, that the child has a need, of, infant baby who's just born, you were discussing this morning, is completely dependent on the mother for food and for most things. And one of the things that's also interesting is in very badly run orphanages where there is no contact, no compassion to the child, children can have enough food, be warm, and still die because of lack of connection, that the mother actually is necessary. Some hardier children can get through it without it, but for a shockingly large percentage of very young babies, if they're deprived of that human connection, that actually is enough to physically stop their life.
One question. Mm-hmm. Now I'm wondering, the one children or child from real mother,
yes,
and not real mother, but genuine 가서
caregiver.
맞아 돈을 가서 파면 토주
알레로
orphanage.
Yes?
Often, mother, real mother, no longer there,
Yes.
but someone
Yes.
take care, compassion, affection, as much as real mother.
Yes.
And here, the child side, knowing this is not my real mother, but yet receive same amount of affection.
Right.
So now here, any differences?
Well, it's difficult to know.
among women chane, so yon there, tita blood gun draw jorota. Ta among women member che, I'm a member cha, I'm a member the shit. Okay, you know.
His Holiness's point is that is there something that is very unique that the biological connection that the biological mother has with the infant. So in a tragic scenario where there is a orphan
Right.
child and who's being looked after by another person who substitutes the mother,
Right.
but the orphan is aware that this is not his or her real mother.
Yes.
So His Holiness is wondering whether this. in
Has
one
it been
case-
measured?
Yeah.
Yes, yes. I can tell you what we know. Instinctively, not because of research, the mother connection is best. That's for sure. But we do know there's longitudinal research that our partners from the Pickler Institute have done. And what I can tell you is that it is possible to, in an orphanage setting, which is difficult, provide a child with enough emotional connection that they go on to do as well in school, get married and happily off in their life at the same rates, and generally not be incarcerated or have drug addiction problems. These are a lot of children who are unfortunate enough to be disconnected from their mother at a very young age have a lot of very serious problems later on with drug addiction. They get into trouble with the law, they are aggressive, violent, they don't do well in school, their cognitive learning is very difficult. But we know based on the research, not mine, but our partners at the Pickler Institute, that it is possible to have someone who is not the mother provide enough connection that the child can go on to the same kind of productive life that a child in a family would. And that ultimately is why we're so passionate about our work at Whole Child, because this is possible even in these difficult circumstances to provide children with the internal resources that they need to be able to go on to happy, productive adulthood.
And Your Holiness, I have visited the children's village in Dharamsala that has over 2,300, I believe, children that have been orphaned as they've come from your home country. And I've met many adults, very well-adjusted, wonderful Tibetan adults I know that have grown up in that very orphanage. So I think that's great proof of the fact that caring and compassion that isn't delivered by the biological mother can have a wonderful outcome. But now I'd like to shift to the next stage. Oh, go ahead.
Another question.
Yeah.
The Tsawa Chiguch Babangmani Chavada, Amangmani Chavation, Dikadum, amount of sort of affection, same from father side and mother side. But because of different physical and emotionally, mother give us milk.
Yes.
And also, you see, at least a few months in mother's own body, right? Within the body is we live. Almost we take mother's womb like our house, isn't it? So you see, but in daily life, the amount of affection same from mother and father. So some differences.
His Holiness is wondering, is there any qualitative difference in the impact of the affection received from the mother versus the father?
Now, for example, taking care, physical touch with the mother and physical touch with the father. Any differences?
You know, that I don't know. This is more...
Fathers are very different from mothers. And Barry Brazelton says that.
Maybe your case may be different.
Yeah. Especially in my case.
And my case also.
In your case
my
also.
father, very short temper.
Very short temper.
Of course.
Yeah, right.
Sorry.
We watch fathers playing with babies, and the mother is very patient with the baby. She will present a picture of an animal in the zoo to the baby. If the baby's not interested, she will present it again and again. She is a patient teacher. The father is very different. The father, he presents it once. If the baby's not interested, then he drops it, and he looks at what the baby's interested in. If the baby's interested in playing with a truck, he starts making the noises of a truck. Chuck, 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 chuck. And he is like another child. He is not a patient teacher. He's like another child. And he's there to have a really good time with the baby. And he loses interest much more quickly. And so the baby's disappointed. And then he finds a new game. And so the baby goes up and down in interest. And that turns out to be very important for the baby's development and the baby's learning to regulate emotion and focus attention. And so fathers turn out to be very important because they're really not patient teachers, and they have a short temper. And they encourage the baby to climb up to dangerous places where the mother is very worried. And so they encourage independence. So there have been several hundred studies now done on what fathers contribute. And fathers contribute an enormous amount. And nobody is more surprised about this than fathers. And you tell fathers this.
contribution yoruba. Ti yu haku tu kan pa Quran han tar ko yores. She's powerful ya shara te.
Very clear. Very clear.
Your Holiness, I'd like to now shift the conversation to the next stage of life, and that is when children begin to enter school. And I know from our past conversations together that you're keenly interested in how to improve the well-being of children by providing them with an education that not only educates their mind, but educates their heart in an integrated whole child. We have two very exciting panelists with us today, Mary Gordon, who you've met before, and Roger Weissberg. And we're going to begin with a short film on their work.
You're gonna stay. You could stay where you are.
Early on, I was motivated to do this work in social and emotional learning because my experiences in the classroom had shown me how important the earliest relationships in life are, how important the family is, and the relationship, particularly of the mother and the father with the child, in terms of that child's attachment and attunement and capacity to be socially competent. The two main influences in children's lives, the socializing influences, are the institution of the family and schools. And this program that I'm working with focuses on bringing the family into the classroom. Roots of Empathy is a program where we bring a neighborhood infant and parent into the classroom to visit over the whole school year with a particular class. We roll out a green blanket and watch that baby develop over the course of a whole school year. And as the children understand the emotional needs of the baby, they reflect and understand their own emotions, and then bridge to empathy to understand how the other children feel. So what we end up with is raising the floor of compassion in the classroom, and we hope changing the world child by child. In thinking about the children that we have the gift of raising, sometimes parents forget that being in the moment is so valuable because the child is always in the moment. And noticing your child, the things they're doing and saying, rather than feeling that we have to be instructing them all the time, if we listen to them rather than preaching to them, it's a wonderful way for both of us to learn. The landscape of childhood is changing dramatically, but the child is unaltered. We have in events like the Seeds of Compassion the opportunity to create a song sheet where every child can sing in harmony, where we've brought together our scientists, our best thinking, our best stories, our biggest hearts, to try and create a world that is more kind and caring and compassionate. And I do believe that we all have that song in us.
For the past 30 years, I've studied one overarching question. How do schools and families and communities work together to promote positive behavior in children? We knew that SEL, or social and emotional learning, would benefit students' behaviors. When we saw that there is also a strong connection to promoting positive academic achievement, it became clear to us that this is something very important that schools need to focus on to promote positive growth and development in kids across the social and emotional and also academic areas. There are 5 core sets of skills in social and emotional learning, and these skills are universal. Self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. In our experience in doing work with all kinds of populations in the United States and internationally, there's agreement that teaching these skills are important for all children. At the same time, the context in which these skills are taught has to be a context that honors and respects the families, the communities, and the countries where these students or children live. It's not just enough to do things in the classroom. The entire culture of a school will change with this kind of work. That involves how all the adults in the school communicate with students and communicate with each other and communicate with parents. So the importance of relationship and encouraging people to be their best is something that would be emphasized throughout every aspect of the education in the school. The long-term impacts of social and emotional learning, when children learn these skills and to work well with others and to interact effectively with others, will result in the long run in making them better parents, more effective in the workplace, better contributing citizens to their communities as well. So the benefits for society as well as for the individuals are very important. There are 3 very clear messages that I'd like to give to all parents. The first thing is it is important for you to be involved in your child's education. The second message is the best way to be involved is to develop a constructive relationship with your child's teacher. The third thing is that it is important for schools to promote social, emotional, and academic learning in children, and it is important for parents to emphasize that they want to see good, sound education that is going to increase children's academic performance, but also improve their social and emotional skills in relating to others. Combining good science, good practice, and good policy on behalf of students is going to make a broad difference in the lives of many children.
So now I'd like to reintroduce Mary to you, who you've met, and we shared a stage with you in Vancouver a few years ago. Mary is an internationally recognized educator and parenting expert, and she's the founder and president of the Roots of Empathy, a Toronto-based nonprofit that works with programs with children all around the world. Mary is well known for her work also in developing parenting centers, and she's the recipient of many awards, including the Order of Canada, which recognizes outstanding achievement and dedication to the lives of Canadians. So Mary, if you could tell us a little bit about what motivates your work and what makes us sing for you.
Yes, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Your Holiness, for sharing with us. The story that I would like to share with you is a lesson I learned from a boy in a very impoverished school region. And this was a boy who was wounded in life. His mother was murdered in front of his eyes when he was 4 years old. And this boy went through many, many foster home situations. So he didn't have any long-standing, loving relationship with a family. And when he was 14 years old, which was 2 years older than the other children in his class because he failed in school, because he kept moving with the foster home situation. So he had roots of empathy in his class. And the one day, the mother and the baby were talking, well, the mother was talking about how her little baby didn't like to be cuddled, and that she wanted a cuddly baby, but she had to accept the baby she got, because you don't always get the baby you ordered. So the mother said to the students in the class, who were 12 years old, would anybody like to try on the baby snuggly, what you carry the baby in? And she had explained to the children that her baby wouldn't cuddle up in the snuggly, her baby would face out to the world. And this young boy, whose mother had been murdered, who was trying so hard to protect himself from more pain by being tough and pretending he didn't care about anything. This boy said, I want to try on the snuggly. And he was given the baby to put in the snuggly. And that wise little baby snuggled in chest to chest with this boy. And then the boy went off and he was rocking with the baby as he'd seen the mother do. And he came back after a few minutes to give the baby to the mom, and he lifted the baby out so gently. And he said to the Roots of Empathy instructor, do you think that if nobody ever loved you, that you could still be a good father? So we can't give up hope. We have to, I think, appreciate that empathy and compassion can develop from any time, from any age, and that it's not just a village it takes to raise a child. It sometimes takes a child to raise a village.
Your Holiness, 28 years ago, when my colleague Carol Couchet and I began to do our own work on prevention in schools, I had no idea how to begin this work. And I had the blessing, the grace to meet Roger Weissberg, who has been my mentor all those years. Roger's a distinguished professor at the University of Illinois, but more importantly, he's the president of an organization called the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. This is an international organization, and the organization is committed to making sure that evidence-based social, emotional, and academic learning is a central part of every school in the world. And for over 30 years, he's trained scholars like myself and practitioners on how to carefully design and implement and evaluate programs for families and communities and schools. So it's an honor to have Roger with us today. And Roger, could you add to the conversation?
Your Holiness, thank you for a wonderful, stimulating, humorous, and emotionally fulfilling day. I would like to tell you a story about a teacher I worked with 30 years ago while I was doing my dissertation, because I learned so much from that teacher and her students and her school that it has motivated me over the years to continue along a path to work with schools throughout the world to promote children's social and emotional learning. When I trained teachers, I used to go to classes and observe the lessons that they taught. And this teacher taught a lesson on friendship making, how to make friends. And part of the lesson involved students sharing feelings, and they shared feelings everything from sometimes excited to shy, nervous, lonely, and they shared those feelings. And another part of the lesson involved sharing strategies, different things that children could try to make friends. This was in a third grade class, and some of the ideas that came up were sharing, playing together, and asking somebody, would you like to play? The lesson was fun to watch. The children came up with many wonderful ideas, everybody felt good about the lesson. A few days later, I came back to the school, and the teacher said, I want you to meet Sarah, a girl in the class. She has something to tell you about what she's learned. And I remembered Sarah as a girl who had listened very carefully to the lesson, but didn't say anything during the lesson. She was very shy. And Sarah said that she was on the playground and she was feeling left out, and she had learned from the lesson, I can ask, do you want to play? And she asked a child, do you want to play? And the child said yes, and they played, and they both felt very happy together. The teacher was happy, and I was happy that this had happened. It seemed so simple. The teacher who taught me so much wanted to extend the lesson like that. And there was a new child coming to the class the next week, and the teacher talked with the students about how can we make this child feel welcome, the new one who is coming. And how do you think this child feels? And there was a discussion about that, and once again the children came up with wonderful, compassionate strategies. Writing welcome notes to the new student, being a buddy to sit with the new student during a lesson or during lunch. So again, by drawing on the resources and the wonderful ideas of children and the way this teacher taught a lesson, we saw all kinds of positive things that children could do. Now, this teacher was so impressed by what had gone on with the children that she went to talk to the principal about this and her colleagues and said we could welcome more students, more teachers into our school, the new teachers who came, and we could also be more welcoming to parents. All of these involve friendship-making skills. They all involve outreach. So the school began to talk more consciously about ways to reach out and welcome other teachers and the broader community. And it became the climate improved in the school. For me, over the years, I've learned that there are some core skills that are very teachable, that can build compassion, recognizing feelings in yourself and others, setting goals and problem solving, working together to come up with ideas about how to reach positive goals, learning and using social skills. And over the years, it's not only through seeing this, but we've completed reviews of hundreds of studies that show that you can teach children social and emotional learning. Not only does it improve their compassion and their positive behavior, but it improves their academic performance as well in school. Earlier today, in the morning session, you said when you believe something and there is science to support it, it is at that point that you have to begin to implement seriously. And I have a question for you about this. Looking around the audience, there are people of all ages here, but many are elders in their 50s, their 60s, their 70s. Many on the stage are in our 50s, 60s, and 70s. And my question for the wise people out there in our community, people who can do things to make a difference, what ideas would you have? How would you encourage them to contribute to make schools more compassionate and to make sure that all of our children learn to be more compassionate?
I have no experience, no particular idea. But one time I think in Sweden, I met one person, although he already retired, but then she or he create a sort of group of people, same age or retired people. Then these old people, men, women, retired, but they join in the education field, particularly care children. So there's it becomes some organization. I met that person. Then when I heard his sort of story and his sort of organization's work, I really very, very impressed. I felt both sides, the retired old people, when they play or taking care about the young children, their life also something active. And I think emotionally also, you see, spent with children. Maybe their mind become a bit younger. Otherwise, you see, old people together look at each other. Then when look, they I mean, the other ones, what is it, the sign of old age. Then it reminds yourself. But play with these young children, some kind of, I think, freshness. Then sometimes I notice the grandparent more fond grandchildren than their parent. Their children. So the children also may be, I think, happy and spend more time with these people. In a way, retired old people, more experience, more stories to tell. So that may be mutual benefit. So actually, when I heard that person, then there is few Tibetan in Sweden, and actually I asked them, after you retire, you must learn experience from this organization. Then I want to introduce among Tibetan community in India. But somehow now, I think 2 years passed, nothing happened. So that I really very much impressed. So whether Dalai Lama retired, I don't know. Whether I can do that or not, I don't know.
Your Holiness, in the world, we are collectively concerned about nuclear disarmament and clearing landmines, but in our emotional lives, we have landmines in our hearts that need to be cleared. And we don't pay as much attention to that. And you have written about disarming the heart. Could you please speak to us about how we can all disarm our hearts?
I think this morning I mentioned the right view. That means fuller knowledge about the reality. Then, like external matters, internal emotional world, there are many things. Some are very helpful, some are very harmful, some are neutral. And all these emotions are, always changing. Changing means it depends on causes and conditions. So therefore, there is possibility to change, to transform our emotion. So through awareness, through knowledge, through understanding, try to these harmful emotions, such as hatred, anger, or the anger,
Hatred.
I think hatred. Anger, there could be positive anger also there, constructive anger also possible. But in any way, you see, these destructive emotions, once realize and understand, can reduce through increasing of counterforce. That's the way usually I describe the inner disarmament. Not through prayer, not through just so-called meditation, close eyes, and just complete relax, not that way, but more analytical meditation, analyze. I feel that's the way. And then once intellectual level, once you understand it clear, then familiarize. So someone, I think this morning, or I think this session, you see someone, you see told, because of that, already expressed, you see the familiarization, get used, then gradually some change. So that I usually call inner disarmament. Inner disarmament, not through agreement or pact. Inner disarmament is through understanding, through wisdom, isn't it?
The mind and the heart.
Your Holiness, this morning and this afternoon, we've recognized that there's virtuous attributes of the human mind that we can see as skills, and these skills can be supported by practice. For example, caring and compassion. In American schools and around the world, we have physical education time for children. And I'm wondering if you would recommend that all schools set aside time for what we call mental education or social and emotional learning.
When I think you mentioned when two couple when get child, there is because of the greater possibility to divorce, separation.
That His Holiness was saying that when he heard that, how the birth of a first child put so much stress on the relationship, leading to a possibility of separation, His Holiness felt very uncomfortable, distressed.
Even animal, I noticed this is some birds. I don't think it's cats or dogs. I think different, but some birds. Some bird, of course, I think for years, they remain as a couple. But at least some birds, during the process of raising their children, they remain together, work together. So therefore, they're not only just a love or attachment, but some kind of sense of responsibility. So from that viewpoint, before child, you have some choice. If you satisfy with, say, because of the presence of your partner, okay. If not satisfied, then it's quite free. But once you have child, even you dislike, now you get the extra responsibility. Work together, take care together. But then the reality, more than 60%, am I right?
You refer to some 68% or
60%.
67%.
67%.
no?
67%.
So this clearly shows something lacking in the society. It's a certain sort of habit that in many years, I think education system and also atmosphere. So definitely we really need even not usually because of the concern about world peace or this, but the family life, healthier family life. Now we really need some sort of stress, the importance of the affection or compassion through education, right? In education field. I think, unfortunately, usually people have the impression the subject, compassion, forgiveness, these things more related with religion. So people or society were not much serious because of the seriousness about religion, then these also, you see, bit neglected. I think that's wrong. So whether individual believe religion or not, it's up to individual. But the compassion, warm-heartedness, these are part of our life, irrespective of whether believer or non-believer, in order to have happier person, happier life, sensible family, responsible family. Right? I think these are something important. So it is clear, in education as the field, we need more stress, more emphasis. But how? I don't know. My knowledge, just a zero. So I want to share here you are actually doing in these fields, not just sort of wishful thinking, but you really involve, right? Committed. So among the audience also, I think there must be many teachers or many parents, I think experts, educationists. I think now time has come. We should have some kind of the education experts come, and also the emotional experts already, no?
Experts in emotion.
And the social people who have some ways concerned about marriage or about social. I think come discuss and make concrete plan how to educate from kindergarten up to university level. And mean and then also the something like family education where how to raise your children, sensible children. That means not only just one family. That is not just concerned about one family. We everybody should talk about the future of the world. So, better world, or the future happy world. Actually, we must prepare those young children. As this morning and also now here, we talked how to raise healthy, not only physical but emotionally healthy children. ultimately, that's the preparation for world peace.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Well, Your Holiness, this conversation seems like it's just begun, and I know we have many questions that we would love to share with you, and I know many people in this hall, but unfortunately we've reached about the end of our time. I feel and I think that I speak for really everyone here that we're moved that you're devoted to the discussions of these topics, especially in times of such strife in the world. It's so necessary. Just being in the hall together with you and exploring the potential we have as humans to have more sanity and caring in the human family is a rare experience for all of us. And we're so grateful for your guidance and your leadership, and more than anything, for your very presence. So thank you so much.
Just made world peace.
Thank you.
I love you.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Holiness. Wonderful.
Thank you.